The South African Business Council, a non-profit organization dedicated to creating opportunities for South African businesses and individuals to succeed in the Middle East. They host 24 high-quality, diverse networking and thought leadership events every year, with the aim of creating an unmatched space for support, education, inspiration, and networking for South Africans. The South African Business Council, in collaboration with the event production company, brings you the GameChangers Series. This series offers a number of recorded interviews with key players in the UAE and South Africa. Each episode focuses on specific sectors and delves into how these leaders have pivoted their businesses during COVID-19 to not only survive, but thrive beyond it. Hi, I'm Karen Ashwin. I'm the CEO of the event production company, and I'll be your moderator today. I have with me Candice Ashwin, who is the Managing Director of Pixel Inc., and Spero Patricios, who is the Managing Director of the Launch Factory. We're here to discuss the benefits of video content in the digital era. So welcome, guys. So I just want to hand over to you, Spero, to tell us a little bit more about your background and what brought you into the video space.
Great, thanks for the opportunity. And it's amazing that we're using video to be able to communicate across the world. Such a beautiful medium. So I started my career when I left varsity in 1984, and I got into the advertising space. And funny enough, I got into the space where we were working with agencies and providing them with the visual medium, which was the advert. And agencies needed to see what other competitors were doing. And in those days, nobody had a database of that stuff. And so what we did as Ornicos, we put that information together and we sold it on to the agencies. And because we developed a relationship with them, we then expanded our business. And we needed to be able to give them the opportunity to then, when they were having events, have video on screen as speaker support, etc. And that's how my video career started in the agency world.
Oh, that's amazing. And today, I mean, how's that? 35 years later, you're still doing that. So clearly you're very passionate about it.
Yeah, listen, I mean, it's such a beautiful medium. It's such a visual medium. And I've managed to maintain and keep with the technology and how it's changed. Because the reality is today, technology has changed video so much, but the basics of what video has meant and stood for is still exactly the same. So although you can use your phone, and as opposed to having a R500,000 camera, which you needed in those days, is you still need to understand the structure of video and how to portray, a really good story. So yeah, I love it. I'm passionate about it.
Absolutely. And Candice, give us a little bit of insight into your business and how that began and what's led you to sort of still be in that business today.
Wow, well, thank you very much for the opportunity. So just a little bit about Pixel and where we came from. We started out in 2001 in-house actually with yourself for event production company. We started out as just a design studio with myself and my sister and supporting events and working in-house. And then from there, we grew into a video agency focusing on brand and strategy in around 2005. And from there, we still continued to work in-house with the event production company. And then in 2014, we broke away and formed Pixel Inc., which kind of stands for Pixel being the video and Inc being the design and brand. So we like to merge those two mediums together to bring out the messaging and the key storytelling within our briefs and from our clients. And in the past 3 years, we've also evolved into servicing the Middle East market and UK as well. So that's hopefully where we're heading for the future. And we're still enjoying it. And we also have a key focus on animation and bringing out brand and the messaging and taking it from there and having fun while creating. So that's a little bit about us. Yeah, a little bit about us. And obviously bearing in mind the key driver here is digital media. And when you're creating the content, where digital media is at, what platform, how you're going to support. So it's consumer market as well as taking your B2B. We service B2B corporates and trying to include also the bit of fun and digital, and working alongside partners as well, event companies, other big production companies, as well as digital media companies that write marketing strategies. So all of these are key factors when developing the content. So a company like ourselves, we would even partner alongside bigger production companies to work on campaigns, all dependent on the brief and the client's objectives.
Great. So Spero, so let's unbundle video a little bit more, and sort of like how there's so many different styles of videos, there's so many different platforms. So let's start with you. So let's go, like, why video? Why should somebody actually think about utilizing video as part of their marketing strategy?
Okay, it's a good question. I mean, I suppose because video has become such a big tool and such an easy tool and a visual medium. So the beauty about video, especially on the digital platforms, is that we become quite used to watching stuff when you're looking at all the social media feeds. So as opposed to reading something, you can very quickly put across a very short message in a video form, which makes it much easier for your consumers to be able to get the message. So yes, some people love reading, but the research has shown that over 50% of viewers would prefer to watch a video than having to read an article. So that's one of the opportunities. The other one is that technology has allowed video. It's an enabler to video. So it allowed anybody along that production line to be able to get involved in it. So if you're an SME, or if you're a small business and you don't necessarily have the money to go to an agency or to a production house, you can use your own tools to be able to create a video. So you just need to create a really nice story. You want to know what your viewers are looking at, what they're interested in, and you can create a video. So that's the second reason why video has become such a big medium. And also what it does, it builds affinity and it builds emotion with your viewer. So, and emotions can vary. So, you know, it could be comedy, it could be sadness, it could be happiness. You can create so many different emotions with your viewer in a very quick, short space of time. And I suppose the other thing is that, without a question of a doubt, video captures your attention very quickly. So while you're scrolling down your timeline, you can have this really amazing visual that captures your viewer's attention. And that's why video has become such a big tool in today's time.
That's brilliant. And then, so Candace, so let's just pull through on that emotional side, because you're big onto strategy, big into target audiences. Let's unbundle a little bit more about creating that emotion with the viewer. So when you're approaching a video, I mean, how would you strategically approach it then to pull out that emotion?
Well, I think to pull out the emotion, basically, I think you've got to build trust and credibility when you're producing the content. So I think it's got to start with authenticity and a vision. And then as the phrase goes, the storytelling device, which is quite a loose term, but it is relevant, and it's a term that's used to create the basis of the strategy. Like they'll say the strategy and the storytelling, but strategy is also a wide word. So, but to get to the question in terms of the emotion, it would be to capture the feelings, building the relative emotion to captivate the audience. But you would have to understand who your audience is, and then obviously how long, in terms of the duration of the video, that it can capture that attention, it can motivate. It just depends on the objectives and where you're going to go with it. But I would say the key ideal tool to use is through a storytelling device.
So Spero, so you mentioned that maybe the viewer can then, well, not the viewer, like the person with a phone can now start making a video. Do you think that they can sell their brand if they don't have the experience on how to basically understand their target audience, how to create this emotion through the right music or the right energy? I mean, surely they're just going to put something together and just put it out. I mean, give us some advice on that.
You make a good point, you know, so because the technology is available to everybody, doesn't mean that everybody can actually make a video. And so that's that, you know, that tipping points. You got to decide what do you want to do. So a lot of the young millennials are pretty good at using the tool, but it doesn't mean that they'll be able to, that it will lead to a sale. But I suppose if we look at content along a content continuum, there's short format and there's long format, as Candice was saying. So where along that continuum do you actually want to play? And what is the delivery mechanism? What is your message? So there's so many different things that you've got to look at when developing a video and when developing your video strategy. So I'll give you a perfect example, a quick example of what I'm talking about. So we know that in the old days, a television commercial was a perfect medium to capture somebody's attention. And if you think about what a television commercial is, it's a commercial break. It breaks what you're doing and while you're watching the program. So when social media or when technology introduced the internet, what happened is viewers sort of changed their way of watching television. So they didn't get interrupted by a TV commercial anymore. What they did is they picked up their phone and they started engaging with stuff on social media. So what happened to the brand that was advertising during the advertising break? They didn't really get the attention that they needed to. So brands need to be very clever on how they engage with their consumers using video. So now making a TV commercial doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get your attention. You need to create something on social media. And so those are the different things that we talk about on that content continuum. Where are you going to get that viewer? Where are you going to get their attention? And really what you want to do with it is sell your product. So there's a very specific formula that you have to use. Absolutely. Picking up a phone and just shooting a piece of video doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily achieve your objective. So yeah, technology is there, but you've got to use it properly. You know, get involved with experts. It's like everything, I suppose, you know.
Yes. Okay. So Candice, we want some tips around how to actually now create this. What is the formula? Tell us. I mean, or is this a big trade secret? We just want a little bit of tips about it, or, you know, what's trending.
What's trending? So I would say, obviously, to attract your audience, it would be like going back to what we had said in terms of the strategy, would be a great storyline. It would also be for also capturing the emotion is choosing really good piece of music that can determine whether or not the video can actually flow or it can't. So it can be, even if you are promoting, say, a mountain bike and you're going on a journey and you're riding through your trail, the music would play a huge role in your journey and how you're explaining how you're actually explaining your product or what it is you want to get across, as well as if you would use a voiceover artist or a script, that would be important. Would it be a male? Would it be a female? Would you just use titling, just a few key words? But I would say that the thing to do would be to obviously start with what you want to achieve and how you're going to get there, and then break it down into segments, and obviously use the right terminology and understand your who you're talking to, because in this day and age it's about your consumer, it's about getting it out there. It's not just about hard sell and pushing a product. It's also about how you can help somebody, how you can get the message across in the most effective way possible.
So, Spero, do you want to add to that? Because I know you've done a blog on like 25 different ways to create video content. I mean, like when I was reading through your stuff, I was seeing also that you had something about video sales funnels. Now, obviously, tell us a little bit more about that, because let's be honest, in today with COVID, everybody has lost a lot of money. Everybody needs to make more money. Everybody is looking for the answers. How do I still create a sale? How do I create the sale while I'm still at home? And I think that video has become even more important than it was. But like we've said, how do we create these sales now? Now we've got a platform. We need the content. But how do we use this content to create a sale?
Yeah, I mean, I'll thank you. I'll build on what Candice said. And I mean, I think that there's no silver bullet, but but there are specific tools, and video is a beautiful tool to be able to do that because a lot of people are stuck at home. So building on some of the tips and tricks, I think that what's key is you got to ask yourself, what is my message? That's a key. And you got to sit down and say, okay, what do I want to say to my viewers, so that you can simplify it? Because a lot of brands and a lot of SMEs want to put so much into that message, and you got to be really careful. Don't put too much into that message because you're going to confuse your viewer. So what's the message? A big key thing that you can specifically do on social media is you can define who your target market is. And I promise you, no product talks to everybody. So you got to be very specific on who your target market is. The more you can define your target market and narrow who you're talking to, the better your end result is going to be. And then you got to say to yourself, what are my desired results? What do I want out of this campaign? Is it just video views? Is it links to my website? Is it downloads of my documents? Is it more sales? Decide what you want to do, because that also informs what your message is going to be. And then you're going to say to yourself, what type of video am I going to use? And that comes into that document that you were referring to, 25 ways of going through that sales funnel. And I can talk to that in a little second. And then the final thing is, don't forget, making a video is fantastic, but don't have it as the best kept secret. Decide what channels are you going to use for distribution. And there's so many different types of channels you can use. Is your product business to consumer? Is your product business to business? If it's business to business, you're going to use a very different type of channel. If it's business to consumer, you're going to use also different types of channels. LinkedIn, obviously, on the big business to business, and the other social media platforms on the business to consumer. So once you've defined those, then you can go through what type of video you're going to do. And there, it will lead you through the sales funnel. And the sales funnel is a typical sales funnel. At the top, you got a lot of people that will be interested, but it doesn't mean they're going to buy your product. And then you need to sort of attract their attention. What are you going to do to attract people's attention at the top of the sales funnel? And there you can do promo videos, how-to videos, educational videos. You can do a commercial in that space. So you're making people aware of your product. And then you start driving them to the engage space. You want them to engage with you, either asking you for a price or asking you for more information. And those videos will then start changing. And then once somebody's just about to purchase, you want to nurture them. So you're going to take them to the nurture space, which could be a case study. You can show people about your product via another product, which is like a testimonial. You can do the product update video, or a frequently asked questions, and then you're nurturing them. And so those are the different phases. And you can use what Candice is also chatting about, animation. And maybe you can just expand on that for us, Candice.
Yeah,
sure.
Tell us about animation, Candice.
Yes, so obviously from an animation point of view, it's also a powerful medium, and it's been used widely now in lockdown, because obviously, well, in the beginning of lockdown when we couldn't go out and shoot, so animation was a good medium to sort of roll out messages. So you get your different forms of animation, your 2D, your 3D, motion graphics, but more for digital platform, 2D graphics would be used, which would be like your explainer videos, your whiteboard, where someone's writing and it's a whiteboard animation. So there's also various apps that have come out with these tools that you can create it yourself, which obviously is your like entry-level video for your clients if you are a content creator. But from our side, creating a professional looking animated video would be using a studio, shooting the actual hand, and how we translate the information onto the whiteboard. So that would be one thing in terms of whiteboard animation. Explainer videos are where you create a character, and the character then would deliver an explanation on, it could be for a teaching platform or for explaining, for example, I've just been getting a couple of inquiries in for safety procedures, or how certain companies are handling COVID, what their procedure would be. Take, for instance, a school. You drive in, you get your hands sanitized, then you get your temperature checked. So these are very important mediums where animation has been used to translate information through. So that's just a couple of examples. There's obviously also motion graphics where you can use, which is utilized to create promos. So that's also for television. Take DSTV, for example. If you watch the way they do their advertising, that's done through promos and cuts of you know, what they're about to show, as well as taking logos and animating. So it all works on all different levels. But just going back to the level of on digital media, I would say the most effective is your explainer videos, your whiteboard animations. You can get them done quite cost effectively, and we have been pushing out a couple of those. And then obviously your safety videos for your companies. So that's where I would say we've been utilizing a lot of animation just currently.
I want to pick up with you, Spero, in terms of, you mentioned about distribution. So I was reading that they were saying that HubSpot actually quoted this, that 80% you have a better hit rate on your landing page if you have a video. Apparently you get like an 80% hit rate, so which boosts conversation. Let's talk a little bit more about distribution and where we can place these things, because we're kind of getting around. We understand now we've got to do these videos, we've got some tips, but I think people are still confused where you get the most hits and why. And also, if you can expand a little bit about, if we're in the doing like virtual conferencing, surely at that point as well, creating video content to communicate, because it is a broadcast medium, and people have to remember that's what it is.
Okay, fantastic, thanks. You know, so HubSpot is a fantastic platform because, you know, it's like a really nice big CRM tool, and a perfect example for distribution would be, you've made this fantastic video, you spent a little bit of money or you spent a lot of money on it, and you want to get it out to however many people you possibly can. So the first point of call would be, and HubSpot can offer it, is you embed the video onto your email. So if you're talking to your current customers, you're just reminding them of the products that you have via the little video link. Now, the beauty about HubSpot is they use the technology. The video doesn't go into the email itself. They've got a link which would then send you out onto another platform where you can actually watch the video. But you'll be surprised how many people will click on a video if you put it into your email. It's a really worth a try. And if you you do a search on the internet, you'll find a lot of free tools. You don't necessarily have to use HubSpot to be able to embed it into your email. So that's one distribution strategy. Another distribution strategy is, again, look at your target market. You want to say, cool, I want to talk to this target market. Then you're going to go onto the Instagrams of the world, you're going to look at LinkedIn's of the world, you're going to look at YouTube. And funnily enough, they each have a very little bit of a different video strategy. So LinkedIn, they all want to be native, number one. So don't cross-link. So don't put a video onto YouTube and then and then when you're on LinkedIn, you know, you talk about your product and put a link onto YouTube, because LinkedIn want to keep you in that space. So when you do that, it's advisable that you write your content and you load your video into LinkedIn, onto the native platform, because then LinkedIn as a platform will give you more hits. They hate letting people go out of their platform. So they don't promote you as much if you directing them out of there. So they like to keep you into that platform. And the same applies to all of the platforms. So when you're LinkedIn, you know, and then YouTube's got a very different type of viewer as well. LinkedIn, as we all know, is like the second biggest SEO channel. People go in and search. Funny enough, a lot of people go and search on YouTube to get answers, not just Google. So it's a big search platform. So to load onto Google, you must be quite thorough on putting in your keywords when you're loading your video onto YouTube. Whereas when you're loading your video onto LinkedIn, you know, you just got to have a really good story. So you create your story around your video. So all of those platforms give you a little bit of a different distribution facility and ability, and a different target market. So LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, email, YouTube. And again, I think a big one is if you can advertise using video on Google. I don't know if you've recently done a search. If you're looking for how to, Google will publish back to you the answers, but in video at the top, which is so interesting. So another unbelievable opportunity for you to be able to get your product out there and maybe make a sale.
Yeah, so what we're saying is video is the future. It really is. I mean, people want to see more than read more, maybe because of time. So Candice, what's your take on it?
Yeah, so just to pick up on what Spero had to say, I'd like to just look at the virtual events side as well. That's also evolved and going to evolve. Events being online, trade shows, conferences, car launches. So I think that's also going to start taking on virtual reality and AI, especially like from the car launch point of view. Speaker presentations, there'll be obviously a material and videos that need to support the virtual event side as well, because that also is a medium where communication has to be strong and there has to be diversity when a virtual event is taking place in terms of presentation, brand. So that is obviously also evolved and disrupted the market at the moment. So if we want to talk about trends, and maybe Spero wants to pick up on what the current video trends are, I would say a very big trend is back to when I was talking about animation and then obviously also delivering and support material and videos for virtual events. I don't know, Spero, if you want to pick up on that in terms of trends.
I think you're spot on. You know, I'll give you an example about using video in a virtual space. So yesterday, I was on a video conference in Nigeria. They had 12,500 people that were in that event. And the keynote speaker was an entrepreneur, and he had created, I don't know, 3 or 5 businesses that were bought by Apple or Amazon, and it was incredible. And he didn't talk about those businesses at all. He showed a 30-second or a 1-minute video about each one of those businesses. And it just said the world about that business. You understood it. And what video can do in those virtual conferences is you can define exactly the emotions that you want to take your viewer through. And at the end of that 30 seconds, you know that your viewer has understood that video. So video as a support mechanism in these virtual events is such an important part. We mustn't forget about it. Yes, it's a very interactive, engaging medium and platform, but the support for it is fantastic, and video is the best medium for it. So yeah, it's unbelievable. Good point.
I think also, because virtual has gone, it's a worldwide sort of medium. So there's a lot of sometimes lost in translation. So perhaps video is really quite a good medium then again, because you can get, like you said, you get the message across. Even if they can't understand the language, they certainly will get an idea and a feeling of the music and whatever's been going out there. So getting back to that, I mean, how do you cope with different languages? I mean, how do you just do subtitling? What do you reckon works?
So it's a well-known fact that across the social media platforms, whenever you watch a video, it's defaulted to the audio muted. So you'll never really get onto any piece of social media with the video playing. You actually physically got to go and turn the video volume on. So what happens is you'll see every one of the brands will have the text that will run across the bottom, so that if you're sitting in a public forum and you do happen to land on that video, you don't want the browser to jump off because they don't understand it. So you can also devise a mechanism, a technique that whichever country lands on it, you'll be able to put it up into that particular language. So yeah, you can that's the beauty about video. You can put your subtitle in any language that you want to, and it's a very powerful tool.
So then you have to create those subtitles. I mean, surely that's not just automatic. So
correct. In YouTube has an automatic tool to do it for you, but you've got to do some work in the background. So you got to put the text, and you got to make sure. So YouTube will automatically translate your text, your voice into text. but there's not always 100% right. So sometimes I'm sure if you see the videos, if the owner of that video hasn't gone in and changed that text, Paris might sound like, it might come across as not Paris, as Paris. So as a user, you got to make sure that the text in your YouTube channel is correct. And then they'll translate it for you automatically. So that if you want to look at it in French, they will turn your text into French so that it comes up in French, So
fantastic. That's fantastic. I also enjoyed, and I want to pick up with you, Candice, a little bit about creating, like you said, I know that the digital world, the SEO is a big thing. And like you're talking about putting in keywords, and that basically search engines are loving video. They love all those keywords and how it's happening. But I wanted to ask whether when you're creating these different videos, do you come up with a strategy, Candice, then that because there are different target audiences for the different distribution platforms, that then a client creates 5 or 6 different videos, and that how do they make that cost effective?
Yeah, wow. So that's a good question. In terms of the keywords and replicating, if you're doing like 5 different videos, so there's various ways of doing it, and that would come out in your pre-production phase, which would be unpacking who the target audience is, what in terms of you're going to do for the production, that you can create your main storyline. And if you have to cut it down into 5 variations, if it's a 10-seconder and then a 20-seconder. So for instance, on Instagram, it's like also your videos to be a different size. So when you're in post-production, you need to obviously, you have to render it out in a different frame size. So there are some technical aspects to it, but obviously in pre-production, if you've got these things, if this is understood, again, from the strategic point of view, then it will work out a lot more cost effective than at the end where you've created a campaign or a video with various messaging and you haven't communicated, okay, we're going to put it on these channels. So all these questions need to be unpacked at the very beginning. And then from there, it can be delivered in the various formats cost effectively and budgeted upfront.
So Spero, so we're coming to an end now. I mean, if you had to wrap it up and really leave a lasting message, in terms of the benefits, because let's go back to our title, we're talking about the benefits of content marketing, basically, and video marketing during this, digital era. What message would you sort of give our audience?
So I would say the key things for me is know what you want to do, plan. Planning is probably the most important aspect of it. Define what your budget is and define your key deliverables. And then from there, you can find the right people to work with. And I'm going to go back. I think it's quite important that you do find the right team to work with, because that, again, will get your budget to go a little bit further. If, for instance, we're not that good at design, it's better to go to Candice because she's better in design. You can go to the company that fits your particular brief. But the benefits of video, if you plan and you find the right partner, are unbelievable. And I must say, the key takeout for me, it's not a one-hit wonder. So don't expect to put out one video and get a result. Unfortunately, it's a long game. You've got to do it consistently. So you got to put out messages all the time, because the platforms are so busy. If you're not talking to your consumers all the time, they're going to quickly forget about you. So consistency in the video game for me is a key takeout. So when you define your budget and you plan what you want to do, don't look at it as a one-hit wonder.
Okay, so just to sum up, I think that the benefits that came out of this today was basically know your key message, know your target audience, work out your result. What a result are you actually trying to get from this? And obviously the type of video you would like to put together and the distribution. And if you'd like any more information, please contact the South African Business Council to get hold of Spero or Candice. Thank you very much.